the words right out of my mouth.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the new media show. And we've got a great show lined up for you this morning. Our guest just had to relocate computers, so he's going to be back with us in just a morning. We're going to have Jason Howell on from TWIT and a producer over there. Apparently, Rob, they're setting up for the new screensavers this morning and need
Yep.
this position he's in.
Yep.
So,
Exactly. Yeah, that's the new show that Leo Laporte's launching this weekend. So it'll be, he's kind of going back in time to his tech TV days and kind of rebooting that show. I think it's a great idea. Bringing that show back, and we'll see. But it's
yeah.
great to join you again on Saturday. Talk about new media and podcasting. There's some big things going on in the space this week. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's just I'm looking at my stack here, and there's like 4, 6, 7, at least 7 articles to
Yep.
talk about. So very, very cool stuff. But Jason will be with us in a few minutes. I was telling my audience, my other show, it's been like, I get up here insanely early in Hawaii. I get up at 4:30 in the morning on a normal day, and even today I woke up this time to be ready to have the show ready to go at 6 my time, and it's been like 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. all week. It's just been it. You can tell that the space is warming up because it's and coming off NAB too, NMX, that definitely adds to it. But I've got. I'm looking at my task list. I got like 6 proposals to get out. It's busy. It's a good time busy. The thing I was talking with the team about is I said, if we can turn all these proposals into cash, it'll be a great quarter.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
always the problem, getting the proposals out, then getting them signed is 2 different things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. It's a good time to be in the space. I think things are moving along.
Yeah. I think that the really big news of the week is the news out of SoundCloud, though it's not as big a news as it seems, but it's certainly them opening up their platform to all podcasters is a change. Clearly, I mean it was closed somewhat before, so I think that we're going to see a lot of podcasters kind of think of SoundCloud, but the devil's in the details over there, though. I mean, even if they open it up, so we'll see. I haven't seen if they've changed any of their platform as far as how they support podcasts. I don't know if. So what have you seen, Todd? Have you spent any time looking over there?
Well, to be honest with you, I did not take a deep dive. I've got one of our team members going through it piece by piece and looking at it. I do know that they allow podcasters to run our redirect, so I know that we're going, as far as the Blueberry Stats redirect, they're going to be able to run that. I don't know about the transparency in RSS feeds, how that works. That's yet to be questioned. I
Yeah.
think there's an answer on that. I just don't have it. But I think my concern, and it's something that I would be as a podcaster, is that and I've said this before, they're on their Series D round of venture capital, and they're burning cash and have had challenges. It's going to be shiny and new, and a lot of folks are going to run over there and put their show on there because they think it's slick. But reading the article, a couple of articles that came out, announcing the rollout, I have concerns, and content creators need to really look at their terms of service and make sure, because they talk about at some point rolling out a premium. Now, this is what confuses me. You can pay to be on the service. You pay a fee to get 3 or unlimited hosting. Well, there's 2 different price points. But
Yep.
yet, in one of the articles that I reviewed, the CEO over there said that later in the year they would roll out a premium feature to not, basically, so you could opt out of ads. And I'm like, that's not the exact
Yeah.
language, but it seems to me as, okay, if you're going to have a system, why would you talk about a system later in the year that would allow you to pay a premium to be not have ads rolled into your content when you aren't saying that to begin with. So, and Angelo actually caught on to it, and he sent me, he says, are they running ads in the content? And I don't know. I don't think so, but why would they say that in one of their interviews, that they would later this year roll out a premium package that would allow content creators not to have ads?
Huh. That seems contradictory to itself a little bit.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. And so it was. I don't know which article was it on the. It was on the USA Today interview, near the bottom of the interview. So if anybody's on the chat room wants to look
Well,
at
the
that.
only thing that is a practice that he could be referring to is if they have some sort of playlist functionality that they're doing some spots in between segments or something like that, or not in between shows, right?
Right.
Individual episodes where they're dropping an ad in there. Stitcher has done that, and continues to do that, and I think there are going to be more efforts around playlists, building, like verticals, genres based kind of playlists, and I think a lot of the aggregator companies are going to think that it's okay to put an ad in between episodes, right?
Right.
Not necessarily like a mid-roll or anything like that. I think that's the real issue, I think, in the space, and this issue has been in the space for a long time. Is if you look at broadcast radio, there's always been this kind of like, well, there's the national ads,
Right.
and then there's the
Right.
local ads, right? So in some ways, you could take that same analogy here, is that there's platform ads that have to be run, but then there's where the value is for the content creator is the in content ads.
Yeah.
The battle lines that I've seen have been around pre-roll, right? What's
Right.
considered a pre-roll, and I think that if you're putting an ad insertion at the beginning, in between each episode, that's essentially a mid-roll and a pre-roll,
Right.
in one insertion, and that could interfere with a pre-roll that's inserted into the beginning of a show that's provided by the podcaster. So that could create a situation where you have two pre-rolls.
Here's the quote. Whoops, let me bring this up. Here's the quote in USA Today, and it goes right to the bottom. It says, later in 2015, SoundCloud is launching a premium ad-free version of the service as well, but Walrus wouldn't discuss pricing or timing.
Yeah. So to me, that could imply a listener scenario, right? Does it specifically
Well,
say
it says launching
content creator?
It says launching a premium ad-free. Okay, maybe that is to the listener. Now, here's the question then. Okay, so that means that they're going to be running advertising in the content. That's what that means.
or in between episodes in a playlist scenario.
Yeah.
So
well, even if someone comes in and plays just a single episode, I would almost foresee that they're going. Why would they say that if they weren't going to run ads in the content? So it's yet to be seen. And I don't know if that's on their own website, not on the hosted media. Who knows?
I know that the tune-in folks are actually playing this game too, and I wonder if it really gets back to is that these aggregators need to have a business model, right? And we've talked about this before, right?
Yeah.
Because if there's no way for them to make any money, then there's not going to be continued investment, and then the whole SoundCloud thing, and really a lot of the companies are making money off of hosting.
Yep.
Not really making a lot of money off of advertising right now.
Yep.
Though I'd say Stitcher has been pushing that envelope, and they've been punched in the face a few times for it. It hasn't always gone well for them to do advertising because they've pushed the envelope on it.
Another thing that I found, and I think I actually deleted the email. Let me go and look at I just read it this morning. It came from Dave Jackson. And for those of you that are just joining us, Jason Howell has had to switch computers. He'll be with us in a few minutes. So we talked last week about podcastwithan s.com. And David's been having email exchange with them over there, and he says, I have some basic criteria for media hosting. One, do not change my file name, bitrate, ID3 tag, give me stats, give me support, charge me for it, have integrity, no false advertising on your front page, make it easy to leave. And
looks like Jason Howell's about to join us.
yeah, he's switching. And he said, then goes on to say, podcast.com, podcast with an S.com came on the scene recently, and I sent them email. One, how do you make money? And they said some of the podcasts have ads on their searchable directory index page, and those ads pay for the cost. So I'm smiling. Number two, do you change my MP3 file name? They didn't answer. Number three, actually they answered it collectively. They said on answers 2 to 4, those are all part of our management portal. And Dave went on to say those are yes and no questions, and when you don't answer them, I assume the worst. Number 5, he says, do you supply an RSS redirect an event? I don't want to use your service. They said, we don't do that at this time. Dave asked, 6, is there a way to show my RSS feed from my website that I use to manage my show instead of the RSS feed from podcastwithanas.com? Answer, they said you could create a redirect URL on your own site, which you can give out and have it just redirect to ours. So Dave goes on to say, notice a tech support person is trying to get me to redirect my traffic to their website, or it's a person who doesn't understand podcasts, or they don't want to display anything from your website. And he goes on to say, speaking with Danny J. Lewis of Audacity Podcast, he stated that he had some email exchanges. They seemed open to putting a link back to their website. Take it for what it's worth. I see it as a platform for secondary distribution. So essentially, they're still kind of, I don't think they just understand the space. I think they're coming into it and trying to strong arm people into, it's weird. But anyway, Jason, welcome.
Hi. So sorry about that. You'd think we'd have this all down by now.
Well, yeah, I think you have too many microphones there and too many ways to record, right?
Well, the truth is, I wanted to do this out in the normal TWIT studio because that's where people are used to seeing any of the work that I do. But we're launching a new show this morning. Maybe you've heard of it, the new Screensavers. And so I found out right about the time that we were going live with this that they had wanted to make noise in the studio essentially in a half an hour. That probably wouldn't work well for you guys. So I had to find an office and find a computer and start from scratch, basically. Sorry about that.
Well, it's we understand completely. Don't worry. Thanks for taking the time out of your schedule, though. And that's exciting.
Absolutely.
They're relaunching that show.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Big deal. Definitely have a lot of people that have wondered if it would ever happen. And I think for the longest time, Leo didn't even think that it would happen. But the stars aligned, and we're doing it. So, yeah, it's a really exciting time.
So why now, do you think, or did he decide to launch it? I mean, is it something he's wanted to do and he just hasn't gotten around to it? Or was there some rights issue that he had to get over or something?
I think there's a little bit of, and mind you, I'm not the perfect person to talk about this. Everything that I've heard has kind of been through conversations that I've heard between Leo and and the audience essentially through the live feed. But yeah, I mean, the Screensavers, was the property of an entirely different entity for the longest time, and from what I understand, the trademark lapsed. And I think that was only one of many reasons why Leo and the crew just thought, hey, why not do this again? We've got a lot of the folks that were there in the beginning that would be willing to be on and kind of relive some of the magic. Although if you ask Leo right now, he would definitely say this is not this is not a remake of something old into something new. This is something completely different. So, it's just, I guess it seemed like the right time. The stars aligned and it's happening. So,
okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I think folks, that are watching the show today, if they don't know you, of course, we've got, believe it or not, there is folks out there in the space that are not techies.
I'm sure plenty
they're
of
probably
people
not watching
have
this
no
show,
idea
right?
who I am.
Yeah. So, Jason, why don't you just give everyone the 411? You do the 2-minute bio pitch.
Well, let's see here. I work for TWIT.tv, This Week in Tech, for Leo Laporte, as we were talking about. I basically right now, and since last October, I've been producing a lot of Leo's biggest shows on the network. This Week in Tech, namely, also This Week in Google and Mac Break Weekly. But I've also kind of done my own shows as well. When I started TWIT in 2010, shortly after that, I started a show with a few of my co-hosts called All About Android, which I'll give you 3 guesses what that show's all about. And we've been doing that now for 4 years, almost 5 years, I guess. Well, about around 5 years at this point. And that's been doing really well. I also have another Android show on the network called Android App Arena, and that's reviewing four Android apps each week, which, let me tell you, is a big challenge. Just spending all that time with one app and being able to write about it and read about it is difficult, let alone 4. So yeah, that's kind of what I do with my time. I work here at TWIT, producing and hosting a number of the shows on the network. It's been a lot of fun.
People don't realize how hard work it is to really dissect and pull apart an app and do the deep dive. It's not. It takes some time. It's harder than doing a regular product review.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and I've kind of gone back and forth with Android App Arena in particular, whether I want it to be a show that is like, I'm going to take a look at this app and tell you whether I like it or don't like it, or whether I want it to be a show of, here's a bunch of apps I like and let's take a deep look into them. And that's kind of what it's become. But yeah, it takes a lot of time picking. Like I'll pick a theme. I'll be like, all right, this week it's all about file explorers. So then I've got to go and research through a number of different ways, what file explorers are out there. And of those, what are the best? What do I see people on Reddit and in other places, going off and on, going on and on about, oh man, I could live without this particular file explorer. People get very religious about this sort of stuff. And then, I have to pick them and then play with them and jump into them, write up a script, go into the back room, shoot it. Then I got to do the B-roll. Then I got to, give all that to my editor, and that's Josh Windich, and make sure that he understands kind of what my thoughts are. And, then we do a live taping where it's like me reading the in-betweens of the review and doing the ad live and all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of pieces that go into a single 15-minute show. It's kind of crazy. And then the next week starts, do it all over again. Start from scratch.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't pitch something we're doing that I don't know if you heard what we've initiated. We feel that we've come up with a solution to fix the one-click subscribe on Android issue for podcast. Really? And matter of fact, we've got currently six devs or 6 apps that are implementing something that we put together. It's called subscribeonandroid.com. You can go over there and take a look at the site when you get a chance. But
sure.
Essentially what we did was we figured out how to make Android listen. And so now we've got the ability when, just like you do on iTunes today, when you click the iTunes link, when you click the Android button, you're going to, if you don't have an app already loaded, a podcasting app, we're going to take you to a mobile version of the website and show you apps that support one-click. And then once you have the app loaded from there on out, from evermore, when you click the Android Subscribe on Android link, it'll just launch the app and bring you up to a subscribe page, just like it does on iOS. We've got again six devs that have agreed. We're trying to get about 10 more to implement, but the website needs to be updated. We've only got 2 apps on the website, but there's a total of 6 guys or 6 podcasting apps, and I think we've got most of the top apps. So we're excited, and it's going to be easy to deploy on websites as well. So I think
I also got the Spreaker devs to add it to their roadmap as well.
Oh, good. So we're going to have it on Spreaker. It's, of course, going to go up on Blueberry.com. Nice. But I think what we tried to make it was as basically a brand agnostic. So
right.
There's someone, this is just the Blueberry guys doing something. No, it's an initiative just try to help the community. But anyway, we talked about it a lot on the last show. I can I'll send you some links and some details afterwards.
I've got the site up right now. That's pretty exciting stuff.
So,
yeah, and it's interesting. It's a problem that I hadn't actually considered, but it's true. This has been on iOS, I'm sure, for a long time. By the way, I'm like totally clueless about iOS. I like everything iOS, but I have to imagine, because Apple has done so much over the years to make subscribing to podcasts and kind of your bringing you into the fold as far as podcasts is concerned about as easy as it can be. So I'm not surprised at all that there's a single click to subscribe for iOS. I honestly had never even noticed that there wasn't on Android, but that's because, like, as far as like my own usage, it's a podcast app on my phone, so I just go in and search for the thing, search for the shows that I listen to, subscribe there. Yep. Pocket Casts is pretty awesome. Yep. That's definitely my favorite, but and then that syncs into the cloud, so anytime I get a new device, if I'm testing something for work or whatever, all I have to do is log in and there they are. But yeah, it'd be nice for people to be able to put that onto a site, just have it one single click.
Yeah, Jason, you're a good person to ask this question. Todd and I have been pondering this for a long time, and you're all in on Android here. As there's this huge discrepancy in podcast consumption on Android versus the iOS platform, and I know, is there any clue that you have to this one-click thing that Todd has done is certainly a piece of the solution here, but is there anything about Android users or the Android platform that just makes it less conducive for people to consume podcasts? Because it's almost like a 6-to-1 ratio with iOS.
Well, I mean, if I had to guess, iTunes was there early on with podcasts, as you guys well know. I mean, it was, it was one of the ways that podcasts kind of was legitimized, basically, as a platform.
Sure.
So being there so early on, I have to imagine, is one reason. There's just a larger pool of people, plus people know to go there to find podcasts. Even if they're just now finding, in this supposed podcast boom that's happening, which I'm not entirely convinced that it hasn't just always kind of been on a steady incline. But I think it's probably part of that, and I think the other part of it is on Android there is no single dominant source like there is iTunes on iOS. And maybe that's opening up on iOS. Maybe now there's more independent players and people don't just have it in their mind that iTunes is the place you go when you want a podcast and you have an iPhone or something. But on Android, like you don't go to Google Play to do podcasts. Right. You have to go to the Google Play Store and find a podcast app or search on a website and subscribe to it in whatever app you happen to be running. It's a little more independent. It's a little different. And that's probably a big reason why. It's just not front and center. It's not something that Google as a company is necessarily heralding. Google at one time had an app called Google Listen for Android, and they stopped development on that a couple of years ago. And that was as close as Google ever got to basically saying, yes, podcast is a thing on mobile, and we want to help you facilitate that. Now they don't even develop that, and that's probably because plenty of third-party developers are doing it as good, if not better, than what Google had going. But yeah, there's no one single place for people on Android to go, or even to know to go to, in order to do that. I think, and that might also just be the case for media on Android in general. I don't know. iTunes is a juggernaut, has been for a long time as far as media, just video rentals and video downloads and music downloads and all that kind of stuff. Google has its own offerings, but I don't know if it's necessarily as dominant of a force as it has been on iOS for however many years.
And I think our strategy in that was hits into some of the things you've said there. And again, I don't know if it's going to be the silver bullet or not, but at least we'll be able to do some influence. We'll be able to have at least 40,000 of the podcasters that use our plugin to be able to put this on their webpage as a default subscribe function.
Right.
And and then at the end, that lone wolf Android user that comes in there that is like doesn't have a clue, and they say, okay, I can. Oh, here it is, man, bam! Fantastic! There's an Android link. Let me bink, and I don't have an app. Okay, here's the apps. Let's load the app. That one looks cool, and then from then on out, anytime they see that link, it'll pop the app instead of popping the website with the.
Right.
So I think in the end, we're going to try. It's my mission kind of this year and again, I'm an iOS user, but I've got 3 Android tablets, but it's my mission this year to kind of grow the Android base.
Sure.
We'll see what happens. We'll see if we can move the needle.
Yeah.
Jason, do you think that with all of the increased attention around podcasting, I agree with you, and I think Todd and I totally agree with you that it's just been a steady increase in usage. But do you see the increased kind of awareness of podcasting and kind of hype, or whatever you want to call it, kind of inspiring Google to consider doing something more with podcasting? Or what's your gut on that?
I never put anything past Google, but as far as that's concerned, Google's a smart company. You got smart people working for them, and definitely with the heightened awareness around podcasts. And yeah, I agree with you guys. Like, I think that's what it is more than anything. It's not that podcasts are experiencing a boom. It's just they've been around long enough that they're more and more legitimized every year, and so people are more aware of them, which is great for everyone that's in the space. But I'm sure Google recognizes that. I would be surprised, I suppose, if Google really kind of stepped forward and did something in a major way for the platform, only because Google, to a large degree on things like this, has been fine to just let third parties do it for them. Essentially, Android is a rich platform, and there's a lot of really great developers developing great podcast apps for Android. I don't know if podcasts, would trump a lot of the other efforts that Google has for the platform. But then again, you never know. They're coming out with apps all the time. It could be, a project that they're working on. I don't know what they would do differently versus, what other developers are doing for the platform. I wouldn't put it past them, but my gut says no. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And sadly, there are some folks in the, and I don't like to use this term at all, but there's some, folks that are in the space that are influential that says that, and it has disparaging things to say about Google because of that. And I don't know. I think that there's lots of great apps, and I think as a collective we can fix it. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I know that you guys use. One thing I want to ask you guys ask you today specifically. Here in my studio, I'm running on a 860 TriCaster. I know you guys have the newer version over there. I think you guys have an 8000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you guys like the whole production flow of everything you do over there? And obviously, you've got a great system and lots of cameras and different ways to switch sets. Is that I'm just from a producer standpoint, are you happy with the flow and how it all works?
Yeah, I'm looking on the site to see if we have the 8000 or if we have the next one. What is the next one?
Now the 8000s or whatever the latest. I've got an 860.
Okay.
I think you guys got the bigger.
I'm pretty sure it's the 8000. Yeah, anyone who's familiar with the network knows that Leo and everybody that, all the engineers that spent their time kind of building the studio and making it as flexible as it is. They did a wonderful job as a producer, as an engineer behind the scenes with all the equipment here. It's amazing how much you're able to do with our shows while still only being one person.
Right.
And I think that's that's pivotal to what New Tech has done with the TriCaster, which is just a monster piece of kit, and enables so much for one single person to operate everything from sound to video and all that kind of stuff. Here at TWIT, what the engineers did is the TriCaster is but one piece.
Right.
So we've got the TriCaster in front of us at the technical direction desk. Over here we have a huge Axia mixing board with multiple profiles. We've also got 4 separate Skype inputs through KVM. Over here, we've got a couple of computers. One is running VidBlaster, so when we go into reruns or whatever, we set up a playlist, full screen it.
Oh, that's interesting.
And set it up so that when we're not doing live content, we're playing pre-recorded live content, essentially. And then, and a few other random computers. A light board, of course. Couldn't leave out the light board. There's a huge light switcher. And, basically, TWIT Studio, for anyone who doesn't know, is one giant room with 5 live sets, depending on which direction you're facing from the technical direction desk. And the TD desk actually pivots like a tank turret.
Right.
So, the next show's over at the production alley. We'll rotate the TD desk to face it, and then we'll set up. We'll take all those cameras, route them into the TriCaster, into the 8 inputs on the TriCaster. Set up the profile on the audio board to recognize that set instead of the set we were just at, and it's amazing. I mean, one person can sit there and completely change sets, profiles, everything in a matter of 10 minutes, titles, the whole deal. And it's just one single person sitting there setting it all up. So yeah, as a person behind the scenes, I can't imagine it being any easier unless you just worked in a facility where there are a bunch of people doing these things.
Right.
Maybe it happens a little bit faster, but even then, I mean, 10 minutes is not a lot,
right.
in the grand scheme of things. Part of that is because we don't have camera operators. All of our cameras are locked down. I think we have something like 40 some odd cameras permanently positioned. Some of them you can move because you need to, depending on where people are sitting and stuff. But some of them are hanging from the ceilings, essentially. And this is like your general purpose wide shot of the studio. This one is this one's at the other side of the TD desk, basically where this camera is, and shoots me, the technical director, in case I want to pipe up, and that actually follows me if I rotate on the turret. The amount of detail over the last few years since they built the studio just blows me away. And I'm so used to it now that I guess maybe a little bit of that awe has worn off, but it really is spectacular what they've done with the studio and what they've enabled for producers to make it that easy to do all the things that one person does. It's pretty cool.
One thing I found interesting that I didn't know you guys were using VidBlaster for a rerun. That surprised me a little bit.
Sorry. Okay. We used. Okay. No. You're right. We don't use VidBlaster, the software, anymore. The reason it's in my brain that we do is because that computer is still called the VidBlaster machine. So when I go to route the reruns, I look for the VidBlaster button on the iPad and go boop. Yeah, we used to use VidBlaster for something on that machine, and I don't even think that we use VidBlaster, the software, anymore for anything. I think now we just set up a playlist in VLC and do it that way. So my apologies there.
No. That because I was like, I know that guy's still developing that software, and I was like, wow, that's okay. So cool. Okay, so I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah, no, my apologies. It's just I'm so used to just seeing that word and routing it. I mean, that's another piece of this puzzle. We have an iPad that talks with a video hub, Blackmagic video hub down in the basement, and that's how we route these cameras. So we have all these cameras. Go to the iPad and say input 1 goes to this camera, 2 goes to Skype, 3 goes to blah blah blah. It's just, it's pretty crazy.
I had I've started doing some small external gigs, and I bought a Mini to do that. And yesterday was kind of the first time I'd really been out and did a full-blown production portable. And only did a 2-camera shoot, because the Mini will go up, take 4 cameras. But I think what people were amazed with, I rolled in with 2 tripods, a black roll case, and a bag, and pulled everything out. In about 20 minutes, I had a full 2, basically a small little studio set up, and I used, and of course you don't want to do this all the time, but I had a stream going via a Wi-Fi device, and the people that were, I think I got more attention from the folks that were there that said, I can't believe you're doing this with just this little amount of stuff, and it's really incredible. If I think today with the money I spent in the studio, and I look, it just there's it's crazy the amount of stuff I have in here. And if I'd had to build this, if I could rebuild this studio today, I would only need maybe a third of the stuff I have here because of the technology advance. Obviously over time it'll downsize and I'll remove gear, but it's amazing what can be done these days, and it's good news for content creators because the price is coming down. I wouldn't want to have to rebuild this from scratch. The dollar amount's staggering.
Right.
But these guys are coming on now. I saw a 4-channel just simple switcher for $1,500. It doesn't do nothing but switch and provide some video outputs, but holy cow, it's crazy.
Yeah. Jason, I wanted to ask you also about the whole topic of video podcasting.
Yeah.
You guys are, I would say, probably one of the biggest video podcasters clearly out there, and the medium of video podcasting over the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years or so has been kind of, my perception is, and I've seen it in the Zoom catalog, when I ran that for a while, it was kind of in a state of decline with all the stuff going on at YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought on the kind of future of video podcasting as a medium? I know as long as iTunes supports it in the software, there's probably going to be a place for it, but do you see a day when video podcasting, under the definition of putting a video into an RSS feed, is not going to be something that's as popular?
You're talking about kind of the dominance that YouTube has played in this realm, right?
Well, and just how
this is one example.
most of the video content creators today are using YouTube to distribute video and not paying the bandwidth charges to
That's a really good point.
Have video downloads.
Yeah. You guys know this as well, but audio is such a dominant force when it comes to air quotes podcasts. We have cameras everywhere. We do all our stuff with video in mind here at TWIT. Like, there isn't a single show that we do that's audio only. Having said that, audio by and large is the biggest, the most popular feed, probably because of the legacy aspect, probably because people are commuting when they, are commuting or working out or whatever, and they aren't necessarily in front of a TV screen. They don't need to be. They just listen to it as opposed to watch it. The emphasis is audio all the way. Yet we still record all our stuff for video because, because there is a certain subsection of people that love to see the reactions of people's faces and love to kind of get a visual sense of the recording of that show. And I don't know if it necessarily goes away. I suppose it's something I haven't really thought of until you posed that question, which is that bandwidth is incredibly expensive, and we're in a high def kind of world right now. Everybody kind of expects things to be high definition. So if you're offering a video podcast in a feed, people are probably, at least going to want, if not expect, some sort of an HD feed of that. And if it's a show that's an hour or an hour and a half and it's a weekly show, that adds up quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, you got to pay your monthly fees or your, if you're doing something like Patreon or whatever, your fans are paying those fees, but that eats up a chunk. I think it's something that people... that a lot of people want, but I don't know if it's a dominant expectation, and maybe YouTube is good enough for something like that. But I hate saying that because, it's nice to get your content, downloaded to your device, and it's nice to not have one single entity controlling the entire space. On the other hand, it's also nice to save the space on your hard drive and just go to YouTube and stream it directly and be done with it, because you're not holding on to these as collector's items. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know where I see that going, but you make as I talk about it more, you make a really good case for a video podcast just as a downloadable RSS feed subscribable sort of thing, the way it is right now, not having the best future. If stuff like YouTube makes it easier and most importantly less expensive for the content creator, then I think they move in that direction. And if everybody's moving in that direction, then that's just where you find them, and the listeners will follow, or the viewers will follow.
I had a call from a client on Monday, a new client, and they do audio and video, and they're they've been putting video up to this point on YouTube, and they basically say, okay, we're ready to put it in our RSS feed. And I'm like, okay, so before we do that, I need a deposit on your account for X number of dollars. And the guy's like, what? And I said, okay, this is what you're currently doing on YouTube. You're going to probably do X amount in an RSS feed based on your show size. And here's my cost per gig, And here, it's just a simple math problem. And we went through, and the guy literally was, I think he had a mini stroke on the phone.
It's about all it takes, to be honest. Those numbers can get scary mighty quick.
And we weren't talking 4 figures. We were talking a 5-figure deposit. And he was flabbergasted. And I'm like, bandwidth there. And I have great pricing on bandwidth. And he says, well, I don't think we're going to be able to do that. And I'm like, okay, so now that's the dilemma, especially, if you really, okay, so if you've got economy of scale and you can get good pricing, and that's very hard to do, and most folks don't unless they go have a connection with us, or we've already got bulk, or someone else that's got bulk that can
you have to have scale.
Bring them into the fold. My markup on that is just administrative cost. I really don't make a lot of money on the bandwidth. That's not my business. And he was just flabbergasted. But I think in order to do video effectively, this show's an hour 30. The file size after I get done encoding it the way I do will be 800 megs. That'll be the size for that 90-minute file. That's in 640 by 6. Yeah, 640, 16 by 9. And when I put the 720 version up, that's even larger. Yeah. You're talking on most. If let's just say you're paying a penny a gig, it's still a penny to deliver this file. And you do that by 1,000, and you figure out what you got to have for advertising and that to pay for it. All of a sudden, it's not as easy. But audio, whole different animal.
Yeah, completely. And I guess that's where the value proposition comes in for both for the content creator and the listener. For the content creator, it's like, well, the majority of the people that consume our show are just listening to it anyways.
Yeah.
So is it super important for, all of that financial aspect of video to even be tapped into if everybody's just going to listen to it anyways? You end up paying for something that is maybe a lot less necessary. Another thing I wonder is maybe Google, this is totally just thinking off the cuff. I know nothing of this, but I would be interested if Google would ever do this. But one thing that Google could do to possibly help out the space is if Google knows that long-form podcast content is being hosted on YouTube by and large, maybe there's some sort of way for Google to allow content creators to, because you can go to a YouTube page if you have the right Firefox plugin or whatever, and you can easily get at the files that were uploaded. You can get the master file that was uploaded to YouTube, and all the versions were created. You can get all the other versions and everything. Why not Google opening it up so that content creators can create RSS feeds out of their content that they've uploaded to YouTube? And I don't know how they monetize this to make it worth it for them. They're Google, they can figure that out. But that would allow content creators to basically podcast their YouTube content. Google hosts and serves those files it already has. Yes, it's more bandwidth for them, but there's got to be some way, advertising or something that would enable content creators to just kind of take what they're already doing, hosting for free on YouTube, and serve that up as a download after the fact. Or is this even possible already? I don't know.
Well, there's probably a way to do it if you want to hack stuff and do it. I know that there's been a way to do it for years, but it's just not easy to do and not common out there. And I do, as you kind of throw into this conversation and the whole phenomenon that we're seeing with Periscope and Meerkat.
Sure.
I'm starting to see some trend lines that are very similar to video podcasting over there, and it makes me wonder as those platforms kind of develop. That it's a very similar situation, that we've seen with, live streaming on mobile has been around for a long time. It's not really a new concept or a new technology. It's just, I just wonder if there's kind of a shift happening on how this stuff is being delivered, and mobile is the key. I don't know. What's your thought on the phenomenon around Meerkat and Periscope and how it impacts kind of user-created video content?
I think it enables, well, like you say, it's not like this is new. Again,
No, not at all.
It's like
Yeah.
many companies have done this before, but suddenly it's a thing because first Meerkat came along and made it a simple, easy, one-click process. And I'm not sure, and there have been others that have done this where just click to stream and a tweet will be sent out on your, to your Twitter followers, and they just have to click that and watch. I'm not sure why it's different now. Maybe it's just the right time. Maybe it's just people are more aware that they want to live stream. They're used to sharing, and now they want to share in a new way, whereas a couple of years ago, they didn't want to share in that way. They just wanted to share in 140 character text sends, and now they want to do video. So, I mean, I think what it's done by and large is it's democratized this kind of platform for people, and there's something there for sure. The big difference, obviously, is that, and the main difference in comparison with what video podcasters are doing is that these video files, it's ethereal or ephemeral. Maybe a little ethereal too, depending on what you're what you're casting. But it's ephemeral, it just disappears. With Meerkat, you do it and it's done, unless you happen to go onto your device and upload that video file after the fact, which you can do. It pretty much disappears. And Periscope, I believe it's like, is it a day or a week? I'm not quite sure. It's iOS only at the moment. Meerkat just released on Android, a little late to the party, but better late than never. So I don't know. I mean, it certainly opens people up to the thought of doing something like this. And in doing that, maybe there's a little bit, with that awareness, is a little bit more kind of desire for that kind of thing. But I'm not sure if it does a whole lot for video podcasting necessarily. Yeah. It's such a spontaneous way, whereas a lot of times video podcasting, or just podcasting in general, you have to have at least a focus, at least an idea, if not, a list of things that you're going to talk about. But I don't know. I think they're kind of different animals, but
I see it as a good promotion space, a good way to promote, and maybe, if you got something related to a show to be able to promote.
Totally.
And, so I think there's some, from my perspective, that's where I'm kind of approaching Meerkat and Periscope.
Yeah, I mean, doing live shows on the internet, we're very used to opening the stream early and giving the behind the scenes and showing what we do, because there's people that care about that kind of stuff. They want to see, what is the technology that you're using? What, how do you set up for a show? How do you do all these things? So we're used to opening up our already established live stream and letting people into that process. Meerkat and Periscope is a way to do that with pretty much, anybody at any time, and just do it on a whim, no setup involved. And I think there's something very valuable to that. I love the kind of behind the scenes aspect, the kind of raw nature of Meerkat and Periscope, although it sometimes was a little hilarious what we'll sit down and watch for 10 minutes. But there's also something very, very kind of cool about that as well, getting a glimpse of somebody else's life, as random as it may be.
So are you seeing the traffic and the downloads on the video podcast side? Is it trending up or down with you guys, or what's the kind of Uber kind of thing that's going on with the the video side?
I couldn't tell you exactly. I can only tell you my impression.
Sure.
Just based on, and I couldn't tell you exactly because I honestly don't know. Thankfully, based on what I do here, I don't tune myself too much into the numbers. I pretty much just focus on content, and I'm very happy to do that. So I don't know exactly, but I would venture to say from kind of the conversations that I hear around me at times here and there, that video is kind of what it has been for a while. I think there's definitely a trend upward. I think that there are more people watching video. If you go to our YouTube uploads, because we upload all of our long form video content to YouTube, as well as video podcast form, just using the YouTube aspect, I feel like a couple of years ago views were a lot less than they are now. So I know that there's a heightened awareness of video, but it's still it still doesn't touch audio. I mean,
Yeah.
audio, you're talking big numbers, and video, you're talking, I don't even know a percentage, but I would guess probably like 20, 30%, as compared, and that might even be high. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Having said that, we do have shows that perform better on video than audio and are not underperforming, that are sponsored and doing well. Those are shows that require a little bit more of that visual feedback. One of my shows, Android App Arena, it's all hands-on reviews of apps, and while I'm sure it's amazing to listen to, watching it, you get the full kind of experience. And we have a few other shows, i5 for the iPhone, which is same type of show. There's just certain shows that lend themselves to video. Those also happen to be shorter shows, and I think that's another big part of this is what a lot of podcasters are doing is they're doing long form content. We're talking 30, 60, 90 minutes. And you turn that into a video, a video of any sort, and that takes a commitment from the viewer. At least listening, it's kind of a passive thing. You can be gardening, you can be doing whatever, but viewing, you're sitting in front of that screen. You're like, the next 90 minutes, I'm going to watch these guys talk.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
So it's a different thing entirely.
I think that going back to percentages, and I won't talk about other shows, but this show, 20-30% is pretty norm.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it trends the same way or not. It's only speculation, obviously, but audio is still by far where I bread my butter. No, where my that's stupid. Yeah. Where my bread is buttered.
I bread my butter all the time.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, and from what I've seen too about that same percentage, Todd, is how many video podcasts there are compared to audio podcasts. It's about 25% or less, probably, of the global pool of podcasts are video podcasts. That's been a kind of percentage that I've seen for years. So it's interesting that the consumption almost matches the percentage of shows that are in the podcasting space. But I think it makes sense. And though I've had the impression that that number has been declining, not going up.
To be frank, Rob, I don't pay a lot of attention to it. I just,
Yeah, exactly.
I look at the overall audience numbers, and it goes on a bill to the media buyers, and that's kind of it. I don't. I used to dwell on my data a lot. I don't anymore. I'm totally now focused on the content, and believe me, I'm not stressing numbers. I don't.
Yeah.
Though I would say, if I think about the video podcast that Leo does, Jason, do you think that he gets a lot of extra value or CPM from his advertisers based on the visual element that he has? I mean, he does such a terrific job. Well, and all of you guys do such a terrific job of visually presenting your sponsor's logo and offers and things like that. And the host reads are so good. But the visual elements around the branding, is that something that you think that drives a lot of value to the advertiser?
I would guess so. Only because our sponsor reads, like a lot of people doing this sort of doing podcasts mixed with sponsor reads and everything, doing it live, trying to make it a little bit more off the cuff. But more importantly, if we're doing something like Blue Apron or we're doing something like Trunk Club or whatever they happen to be, there is absolutely a visual element tied into that brand. It's one thing to hear that you get this when you sign up. It's another thing to see like the box come out and open it and be like, check this out, I got this, and
yeah.
I don't know. I think as far as sponsors are concerned, I would guess, and I would hope that when they go to check out the reads to make sure that we did a good job and that they want to continue on with us, that they check it out in video and they don't just check it out in audio, because I do think, but having said that, we also have a responsibility to the audio listeners to make it informational, and obviously we're provided with information that needs to be in the read, so they've kind of done that work for us. But absolutely, I think video really helps as far as that's concerned.
Isn't that, that's a challenge I have from time to time, is that I have to, in the back of my brain, I have to say, remember. They're listening. They're not necessarily seeing. So I bring something up on the screen, and I'm like, see this picture I'm showing you right now. Well, the audio audience, they get pissed off. They're like, dude, we couldn't see it. So I think anyone that's doing video has to really remember that, because again, the majority of the audience is listening versus watching.
Yeah. And that comes over time. It's hard. It's like having a nervous tick or saying all the time, like I just did. And right there too. Now that I know, I'm going to be super clued into it. But it's really hard to break yourself of that habit.
Right.
And yeah, you got to be overly descriptive without feeling like you're talking to a baby and describing every single little thing. But it is very important. The majority of people in consuming your podcast, if they're on audio, then they might not know. So often people come on and we're like, where can people follow your work? And they're like, it's down there on the lower third. Just go right there. And I have to kind of read it off, because you know what? Most people have just heard you say that. And they can't read the screen. So
we're at the top of the hour, and I know you have to go.
I have like 5 more minutes, I'd say.
So
if you guys have anything else, but
Rob, any final thoughts here?
Yeah, I just Jason, if you can share anything about how big the TWIT network is right now. I mean, how many shows there are. What's kind of the overall kind of plan for, as far as your understanding, plan for the future? Is the network going to continue to grow? Or are you guys kind of locked in at a certain amount of shows? Or are you at capacity and things like that? If you could talk about kind of the overall kind of TWIT platform and the TWIT network and shows, that would be great.
Yeah. I will just say that TWIT always, plans on growing. It's ever since I started here in 2010, and the daily schedule was a lot less packed than it is now. There was a point where it was easy to play around with new show ideas because we had open gaps. Fridays in particular were very open, and so we could we had time to kind of take an idea and play around with it and see, and fit it in there and do it live and see how people responded and all that kind of stuff. Definitely now things are a little bit tighter. We've got morning to evening live content for the most part, without hiring another group of people to fill out the other 12 hours of the the evening and morning. It's become more challenging. Having said that, TWIT is also, from my experience, totally fine with taking a look at the shows and saying, what's performing well, what's kind of on the cusp, and what's not doing so hot, and kind of putting it on alert and then revisiting it later, and dropping something that's underperforming and trying something new. So I think TWIT's always going to be trying new things. We're always trying to find shows that really appeal to the core audience, and the core audience for TWIT are lovers of technology. That's pretty much what we're based around. We've tried geek content, more like geek media and that sort of stuff. Didn't perform as well. We've tried stuff outside of technology and in general, and if it's not kind of that hardcore kind of geek programming that just any normal person isn't going to sit down and watch you talk for an hour and a half about the Android platform. You got to be pretty passionate about technology to really kind of get that out of it. So we're always creating new shows around with that in mind. So I don't think that'll ever slow down. We're just gonna keep doing what we're doing. Like I said, I'm not as close to the long-term vision as far as what TWIT has in mind, but I imagine we just keep making as many great technology shows as we can, and hope that people think of us when they think of when they're passionate about technology and want to find something to watch in that regard.
Very cool. Jason, thanks so much. I know you got to run to get your kid, and
I appreciate it.
And definitely thank you for coming on today, and we'll have to touch back again sometime soon.
I would love that. This was a lot of fun. I'm sorry I got a little bit late of a start. I would have enjoyed joining for a little bit longer, but yes, I got to take the kids to the playground. So I will do that. And yes, please be in touch. I would love to hear from you guys again.
And folks, make sure you check out Jason Howell on Twitter at Jason Howell, or go over to twit.tv and you'll see him there producing shows. Everyone,
That's right.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Hey, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Jason. Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
One-man show, clicking the buttons.
Yes, you are. Yes.
That's
good.
Right.
Yeah, I've been wanting to have Jason on the show for a long time. I know he spent a lot of years at CNET also. So he's got a strong background in working with, web content going back many, many years. He's another tall guy. He's about 6'7", 6'8" himself. So, I went down to TWIT at their grand opening back when they launched the studio, and I was like, at the launch party down there,
right.
And we were talking together, and he's like one of the few guys that I can talk to face to face. So
that is a unique experience for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So
I know, us guys that are, I guess what we'd say would be average height, we don't think about that look down effect. So it's like you need a massage therapist just to get the crink out of your neck.
Oh, I do. I go to chiropractors all the time to get me all in good shape because I'm always looking down all the time and it causes problems with my neck. But,
well, they say that's going to be a chronic problem for the entire country or entire world because we're all looking down at our tablets.
Yeah, or our
devices,
phones,
yeah.
But, that kind of stuff. It's a problem, especially when you're tall like I am.
Yeah.
But oh well.
Hey, I wanted to go back. We talked just a little bit about SoundCloud. I don't know if we have anything else we really wanted to talk about with them from the beginning of the show. We talked about them coming on as a player.
Yeah, I think it's a big development. I think, but there's other things going on in the space too. There's the whole patent thing has been taken off the plate. I think we've talked about that a little bit. I don't hear a lot of people talking about that topic too much anymore. And actually, I was a little surprised that it wasn't talked about more down at the expo. It's almost like people just said, "Oh, that's done and over with, and we're not going to be concerned about it or talk about it anymore."
I think the average podcaster wasn't worried about it. I think the folks that were worried about it were, folks like us and some other entities that were out there. I think we were concerned. And I don't know if they're gone completely. Only time will tell. We can tell it's a new time. It's that time of year again where I'm getting the lights in my window again here.
Yeah, on your forehead.
Yeah, for those of you that are watching, you see the big stripe of light that's or sunlight that's hitting me.
One other big thing that happened this week that may have an impact on podcasting is what's going on with Microsoft and Windows.
Really? I didn't hear anything on that.
Well, it's not specifically about podcasting, but what they're doing with their platform is that they're basically going to enable app developers to easily port Android and iOS apps over to Windows across all devices and screens, even the Xbox, which opens the door. I've already heard some folks in the space, building podcast apps for Android and iOS, thinking, if there's potential 1 billion Windows 10 users coming in the next 2 to 3 years.
Oh, you read the article too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that's a lockdown thing,
right?
But if you think about their strategy, their overall strategy, I watched a lot of the Build conference here this past week. And I have to say that that's a major shift in strategy going on over there. It's not trivial at all, and it's hard to say what the impact of that is.
Well, they have to because Apple's already beat them to the punch, so they have.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously that's entirely true, but you have to say that Microsoft is going further than you could ever imagine them going on this. And I think that the other big thing that they also announced too is the ability to make your phone your desktop computer. I don't know if you saw that. It was called Continuum.
No.
And what they're going to do is come out with new handset devices that will enable you to use that device on a screen. So you'll be able to not have to buy a desktop or a laptop if you don't want to, and solely use your phone as your desktop experience. So you just basically plug it in to the USB port and then use a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse with it, and it's going to display the whole Windows desktop experience, the whole Windows 10 on your screen, on any screen.
Hmm.
So it means that, some people, and not everybody's going to want this, can have just one device that does everything for them.
Right.
And I think with the ability to port iOS and Android apps to Windows easily across a universal app store means that all these really good podcast apps that are on iOS and Android could be ported over to Windows very easily. So we could see a big influx of podcasting apps on the Windows platform that has been very sparse up to this point. I mean, there's only been, I think, Pocket Cast just announced that they have launched on Windows Phone.
The problem, though, Rob, is the Windows Phone to me is, well, I'm
Well, it
worried
doesn't
about,
have a lot of market share right
yeah,
now.
I'm more worried about the platform, not Windows Phone. Windows Phone to me is like,
Yeah. Well, it's very small market share, totally. But I think you have to back up and look at the big picture of Windows. How big is Windows?
well, how big is Google? Google's replaced much of the stuff that I did with Microsoft. In large part because
Yeah.
they figured it out first, and it's tools that we're using. I think Microsoft's got a huge road to climb here. I think they got a lot of catch up to do. I remain unconvinced. The Xbox platform is great if they open that up. Awesome if they open up and make it easier to port stuff to Windows Desktop. Great. I just don't. I don't have high hopes for the Windows Phone.
No, and it's not about Windows Phone.
I understand it's a bigger play.
Yeah, really, if you back up and you look at it, it's Windows 10 on any device and any screen.
Right.
Which basically, in truth be told, it kind of takes the whole analogy of focusing on Windows Phone as a separate platform and a separate app development platform completely off the table. It becomes a part of a unified platform that can work with Android and iOS apps as well. So it really gets back to a hardware play at that point. What kind of hardware do you want? So I think there's a lot of users that will stick with Windows, and I think it could have an impact on podcasting. Is really, I think, my big comment here is that there just hasn't been a lot of good apps on that platform as well.
Yep.
And if there is 1 billion users, that's a lot of potential podcast users.
Yep.
So
well,
anyway,
we will see. One thing that this week in the news was WNYC, NPR, and WBEZ in New York City.
With upfronts.
They had their upfront, and so I think this is was a good event. I saw some of the stuff that they produced. Don't know how many people attended, but anytime that there's events that are being held specifically for the media buyers, it's good. And trying to get media buyers on board. But, I continue to be discouraged in some of the commentary that's being made on some websites that this, we've got to make sure that we start protecting the space in that the conversation measurement keeps coming up. And ill-informed discussions about measurement are starting, I believe, are going to hurt the space. And we got to get all the players on the same page in a short order, or it's going to be affected. It's going to affect us negatively. I think it already is, because every reporter says there's problems with measurement. Well, the problem with measurement is the people that don't have measurement have a problem with measurement. So I think that what they're doing is great. What they're talking about is fine, but boy, oh boy, it just to me looks like a political ploy by some folks to try
Well,
to
Todd,
divide and conquer.
let's be clear what you mean by your comment that some people don't have measurement. I mean, everybody has measurement.
No, they don't.
Right? Well, okay, and that's part of my point of my question for you is let's be clear what we're talking about here.
Right.
There is a certain amount of baseline measurement that happens, right, at CDNs,
Right.
and that information is ported into whatever visual display that data
Right.
presents
Right.
to podcasters. That is a form of measurement. What we're talking about here is what's applied to that data
Right.
to make it more accurate,
Right.
right? To what the user does with the content,
Yep.
and how reflective of that is as being as accurate as possible, right?
Yep.
So when you say some people don't have measurement, you're really talking about that they don't have the proper algorithm to make sure the data is accurate.
That is correct.
Yeah. So what does that mean in the context here of what's happening in the space? I know I'm trying to get a representative from the IAB to come on this show to talk about. I tried to get Luke to come on, and he told me that he couldn't do that because he's a contractor.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get a representative to come on to talk about offering some access, right, at least through our show, to the community to let them know what's going on with this podcast working group.
Yep.
Because I think one of the problems that we ran into in the past with the Association of Downloadable Media was the non-transparency, and
Yep.
I think a lot of people in the community were kind of caused that organization to collapse because it was behind closed doors, and to some extent I see that happening with the IEB group too. I don't know. I mean, what's your comment on that?
Well, I hope the process continues to move along and there can be some consensus. I think that committee, before we joined it, was in risk of being hijacked by commercial interests that had their own agenda. And I think that us joining put a break on that. Good or bad, we wanted to make sure that there was accurate and civil and all parties to the table discussions to make sure that the podcasters' best interests were put forth. And I still remain that to be my number one goal, is to make sure the podcasters have a voice, be it through me or some of the other team members that are on there that are, what we would consider healthy, good players in the space. And I'm not saying there's unhealthy, but I'm just saying that some of us think this, have been in this a long time. So, I just hope that they are able to come out with we get this document completed and come out with at least the initial cut on this. But I get, when I read, I just want to pound my head against the pavement when I'm reading about reporters and how they get these sound bites that there's potential issues with measurement, and there really isn't per se. They just aren't talking to the right people and getting the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. But I think we just have to be protective of that. And when we see comments like this, I saw 3 reporters that reported on that event and made some comments, and I emailed them and said, do you realize what you're saying here is inaccurate? And if you want to know why, let's talk. So I think it's important that we go out and reach out to the reporters that are maybe getting some misinformation, to try to get them to understand that there's a bigger picture here that they fully don't understand. And it's a tough, to try to tell a reporter, 10 years
They're wrong. Yeah.
10 years of information in a 20-minute discussion is very, very difficult. So, but we'll see. And I just, I think the awareness is good. I think that there's going to be no issue from an execution standpoint. We talked with a very big client, new client this week. who it's, at this crossroads themselves. They're saying, hey, we need to make sure that what we're doing is providing accurate reporting, and we want to make sure that our numbers align correctly, and they're basically coming up on our system. So I think that what we will find is over time, we're going to continue to fight the good fight, but some of these comments made in some of these articles just infuriate me. And I understand companies have agendas, and the agendas is to make the numbers as big as possible, so their businesses grow as quick as possible. But for me, it's more about accuracy in the long haul and being here in 10 years and still being business and producing revenue for content creators.
Yeah. Well, I think there's another kind of conference call coming up, I think on the 8th, I believe.
Yeah, I need to look at the schedule.
Of May.
Yep.
So I think it's the first time that there's been kind of a group call since the meeting down in Las Vegas,
yep.
To kind of lay all this stuff out. And I think it was a couple months since the last meeting prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
So this group really hasn't done a lot together, but I did notice that there was like a white paper document put out from that group or a subset of that group. I'm not exactly sure how that
I didn't
all
see
came
that.
about.
When did they release that to the group, or is that I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I saw a document. I mean, it was focused. I mean, it was fairly focused on podcasting. Came out. It didn't have standards around measurement necessarily. It was more like size of market.
Oh, when was that?
I think it came out just like maybe a few weeks before, the meeting in Las Vegas.
Oh, is that the one that they asked for final? Maybe I know what document you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that you know about that one.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't actually see that they had put it on the street.
I don't know that it has been put on the street.
Okay. Yeah, I got.
I've seen it.
I got to edit on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I got to edit on that one, and.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Oh yes, I have a red pen, and there was.
So you know what I'm talking about then. Right?
There was some excellent. So what I'm referring to the audience is we get insight on these papers, and you're reading through, and okay, let's just be square. I'm a CEO of a podcasting company, all right. And Rob, you work with a podcasting company. Everyone has agendas, so let's just put that on the table, okay? Let's be square.
Yeah.
But when I'm reviewing a document that is going to be going out and speaking for the community at large, agendas are left at the door. And this,
well, you would hope, right?
You would hope. And when I find pieces of information in a document that's like, that's an agenda, I put a big red slash through that and said, this needs to be removed. And there was a few points in that document and they actually came back and said, the submitter of that has withdrawn it. Because what we want is we want a document that is not commercially driven. We want a document that's going to be informational, provide good data to potential media buyers and everyone else. We can all argue about our systems and way we do things, improving our campaigns to the media buyers when they call. We don't have to do this big. It doesn't have to get politically and commercially motivated in the document. That's not the purpose.
Yeah, that's true.
So
there shouldn't be an agenda there. Hey, I wanted to also mention that I pushed out a downloadable version of our slide deck from our state of podcasting thing.
We still haven't got the audio file.
No, we haven't. But I figured at least I would put out the PDF of the slide deck here, and I'll send it to you here.
Next year we need an audio recorder on the table.
Yeah. I thought about. I mean, actually, I had one. I just didn't bring it with me.
Yeah, so that we'll fix that next year.
So Todd, I sent you a link to that PDF file.
Okay, I'll put it in the show notes tonight.
So if you wanted to to scan through that. It had some interesting information there, but really the meat of it was in the audio.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what we need to grab and put out on our feed. Now, there's no video,
Yep.
unfortunately.
But one thing that, Rob, that you found that is probably one of the better articles that I have read in recent times is an article on 538 economics.
Exactly. Yeah, I saw that.
And this is a great article.
Yep.
And any content creator that's out there that really kind of wants to get a feel of what's going on should read this. There was a few. I wouldn't even say there's any cringe-worthy moments on this. I feel that this was really well done, and that there's a lot of points I said yes, 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 yes to. I would love to be able to go back and say, here's some additional data. Here's the other side of the pie that you're missing. But this is really good. It was a really good piece. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, it actually portrayed the medium in an advertising perspective is true to form of what it really is all about.
Yep.
And I think that's important to see, because it's, as we see the kind of radio folks, the online streaming radio folks move into the space, they're going to want to make podcasting into online radio.
Yep.
And that's really the battle that's in front of us, is the influence of that medium coming into our medium, really.
Well, I don't know who Stan is, Stan Elkhorn over there, but Stan, if you listen to this, you did a bang up job.
I know. So we should get Stan on the show. Maybe.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was, and I don't know who he is, but he really, he's probably the first reporter that's written a piece that I didn't want to just body slam.
And that's so much fun to do too, right? Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Don't be afraid. I'm not. It's just like
baseball bat. Todd with the baseball bat.
No.
No. Yes. I know how this works.
Oh, it's funny. And then another group that's starting up is Pod Nerds. And I hadn't
heard about this.
Podnerdscommunity.com. I don't fully understand what they're doing yet, but one of those folks used to work, I think, at Blog Talk and has moved over here, and so they're going to be providing. I don't know. They're helping with networking. I don't know if they're trying to be a PR agency, or really, I don't fully understand what they're doing here, but.
It's called Pod Nerds. Is it podnerds.com?
Podnerdscommunity.com. And
that's a horrible domain name.
So it's connect with podcaster, reviews of platform software and hardware, learn about podcasting, build your network. It's basically they're for tenants, or connect with podcasters as well. They're for tenants, and who knows? It's just like world-class information for low cost or something like that. So I have no idea what they're going to charge or anything else. But anyway.
Well, it's amazing how many new websites, new companies. I mean, so maybe next week, maybe what we should do, Todd, is we should create a list of all these new companies. Just run through them all and talk about them.
I'd like to. Before I tell people to go over and just like this one here, I have no idea who's really behind it and what kind of credentials they have, and
sure.
But maybe some of these folks, if they figure out we've talked about them, can reach out and tell us what they're doing, so we can, have a little better insight before we send people over there. And again, I'm not endorsing anyone. We're just talking.
We're just trying to cover the plethora of people that are getting involved. And then there's Clamor, which is the other one. I think I was going to get on the founder and creator of that new app that's out there too.
That's another app. I think it's going to be great for promotion. I don't know if it's to me it's it's an interesting app. I think they have a long road to hoe. I think it's not necessarily that easy to. I don't know. We'll see. I should reserve judgment, but
yeah. I mean, it's. I've used the app as well, and it's really all about clips from shows,
Right.
right? Trying to feature, highlight moments from podcasts is really what's about. And there's a lot of, fallout that could happen. I mean, not necessarily negative fallout, but ways that approach could be used in the podcasting space that isn't necessarily the way it's being used right now. I mean, it could be content that's added to other shows. So like we could play a clip from a podcast on this show based on using that technology. Or you could create a whole show just based on that, using clips from other shows and talking about what was covered, or, creating discussion about topics based, kind of like what Jon Stewart does on his show, where he plays clips and then beats them up about it.
But overall, I think that was all I had in the stack today. The Pew Research folks came out with some stuff, but they
Yeah.
regurgitated some numbers, and they didn't.
Yeah.
What's sad there is they really didn't. They didn't reach out to too many people either. So
Well, and they're showing a stronger growth curve than the Edison folks,
yeah,
which I thought was really interesting. So I guess, it proves that, your sample is pretty important.
yeah,
Who you're asking these questions
two.
to determine scale or growth is pretty important, right?
I've actually talked to Angela a little bit about this. I said, how can we measure growth? Or if you're trying to rack our brains on that one, because
Growth based on what, right?
yeah, and the problem is that I don't know if I'll ever be able to really produce that number. So the Edison folks will be able to, and the Pew folks probably will better be able to determine growth through surveys versus, I what do I do? Do I take a show like mine and look at growth over 10 years, or do I group 500 shows together? And I don't know if that's even an accurate representation of growth, because there's two different types of growth. There's audience growth, there's podcaster growth. There's a whole bunch of variables there from within that, depending on how you frame the question.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff is tough. I can see what's happening from a data standpoint. I can see what's going on in how the number of downloads, or how many access, or how the IPs are growing. That I can see very, very. That's pull that up at click of a button. But it's a whole different animal to try to determine growth rates and stuff. We have come up with some projections that we'll probably release at some point, but and we're actually going to know how many active podcasters there are too. That's the number that I'm very excited to be able to share at some point here in a very, very, very near future, very near present, not future, but we'll be able to tell people how many actual active podcasters there is.
Yeah, it'd be great to actually have that.
Yeah, and we'll be able to tell how many, and I'll get a better sense too of what's died, how long it took them to die, how long how long the shows went, all that metadata I'm going to be able to have access to. That is kind of what I'm chomping my bit at, chomping at the bit at to get access to. But it's close. Maybe next week close. We'll see.
Yeah. So just one other thing I saw come out this week. There's a new app and kind of a audio and video publishing platform called stationlocal.com.
Station Local?
Yeah, and it's trying to do a little bit like a hybrid between like Periscope and podcasting, where they offer an app platform, but it's more based on location. So you're basically able to live stream audio and video, and to deliver pictures and text, all kind of based on your physical location. So you can find,
events and stuff going on in your particular area.
I guess it could be used for that kind of thing. I was thinking about that there's not really a strong use case for local like that. It's not like people that are going to watch that are going to particularly want to watch it because it's happening down the street.
Unless it's viral.
Yeah, it still needs to be compelling content.
Right.
And that's why we see a lot of these video platforms being more kind of global, kind of not geographically oriented for any particular reason. Where this one is kind of like saying, well, that's the big hook with us, is that these are things that are going on locally. And
But here's the problem. It's just a web. It's mobile only. They don't have an accompanying website to go along with the content.
yeah,
It's like,
well, a lot of these startups are being told by VCs to go mobile first, right?
oh,
But supposedly they have a web-based platform that's coming. It's just they
not built
started
yet.
out, it's the mobile first thing, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's interesting, live video and audio, where a lot of platforms they're either live audio or they're live video, but not the option of doing both.
Right.
So anyway, there's a lot of new things coming into the kind of online broadcasting and new media space, and I guess that's always been the case.
All right. Well, I think we're
At the bottom.
what we call here in Hawaii pauhana. I think we're finished.
Pauhana, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think then what we'll do is I had reached out to Adam Curry. He did respond. He's crazy busy, as you would expect.
Yep.
So I'm going to keep working to try to get him on. I know you had originally tried to get Tom Webster on this weekend. Did you trying to reschedule him for another weekend, or?
Yeah, he couldn't do it. So I'll try and get Tom on for next Saturday, and then I have on the 16th booked Damian Berger, who is the vice president of business development for Fullscreen.com and is the former CEO of What's Trending. I've spent a long time kind of a YouTube video series that was done down in LA. So I was going to have him on. Damien actually used to work for Revision 3 and did a lot of their business development work for that platform with Jim Lauterbach. So anyway, I wanted to get him on. But yeah, so on May 9th would be great for either Adam or Tom.
Okay. Just so the audience knows, too, don't forget, we've got an incredible stack of people that we have had on this show in the past, shows that you want to go back and listen to. Jeff Adams, Bob Howell, Rick Calvert, Brad Hill of Rain Enterprises, Matt Lever of Gimlet Media, Andy Bowers of Panoply, Francisco Bashiri of Spreaker, Tim Sinclair of Ringer, Daniel J. Lewis. We've got Paul Rizzamandale from Midroll. We've got Angela Mendato from Raw Voice, Phil Nelson from New Tech, Alan Levy, Blog Talk, Rocky Thomas of AdWiz. The list goes on and on and on and on. And these are all people that are making things happen in the podcasting and new media space, a cross mix of folks doing YouTube, doing podcasting, doing anything really in that space. So go back and listen to those archive shows, because there's a ton of information here that's going to make your show better. And we want you to definitely get over it and check that out. At the same time, from the New Media Show and the New Media Show itself, Don Bain, the Gadget Professor, is one of the team members here as part of our little mini network, did some stuff at NAB talking about gear. He did over 200 interviews with the vendors of different products and services. And what we're going to be doing, or what I'm going to be doing, starting next week, if you want to get information on what's happening with gear-wise, you can go to progear.guru, and we're going to be talking about really a ton of gear stuff, and it's going to be everything that you are going to want to consider for your studio and for your portable recording, and vice versa, and it'll give you a little bit of an insight into gear that's going on. At some point, this will probably delve into its own show. It isn't a show at this time. It's strictly a site to talk about gear. We're currently not monetizing the site at all, so just to let you know that is not currently going on. At some point, we'll probably start putting links, affiliate type links, to the gear we talk about, but right now we're just trying to build the site's reputation and get information out there. But all this is possible with the entire team that we work with. There we go, beyond new media, providing you gear information and actually talking with the folks that make this stuff. So we've got a lot to offer here, so I hope you take advantage of all that content. Rob, thanks.
Yeah.
I know we did some updating on the website. Thanks for going through and giving me some copy edits. I think we've got all your stuff converted over, so I think all your
Current?
accolades and stuff are current. So, but if anyone has a guest they want us to talk to, you can send an email to either Todd or Rob at newmediashow.com. And I guess we probably at some point should start talking about podcast movement. That's next on the list.
It's
so
the end of July here.
yeah. So I'm already in, I wouldn't say panic mode, but I'm already like telling my team, go, go, go. We got a big announcement for that show, our biggest new product announcement ever. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, I'm going to be there too, and I'm in the process right now of trying to pull a panel together. So
yeah, I don't think I put a session in. I don't think I've been approved to speak yet, but that who knows if they've got that completely locked up or not.
So what was generally your session?
Similar to the session I talked about at the
New Media Expo?
Yeah, similar to that. A little different vein, but similar. But I can't wait till that audio becomes available from the New Media Expo. I think people at the event said it should have been a keynote. So I'm looking forward to people hearing it that were not able to be in the room. So.
Okay. Yeah, I may be in touch with you about a session also. So so we'll see on that. I'm trying to pull together some concept ideas on what we can do down there that maybe is a little bit different than what we did at the New Media Expo.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, let me bring up the page. If you're a content creator and you didn't make it to, actually you should consider going to Podcast Movement as well. This would be the site, and I know of a major announcement coming, I think, on Monday too. So I'll be from them, and I'll be posting about that as well. So anyway, think about registering to go to Podcast Movement. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and it's a strictly podcast only event.
Mm-hmm.
And should be a good time for all.
Yeah, definitely. So we should probably get Dan Franks on or Jared Easley, one of those guys on here to talk about the event here over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, because it's definitely moving, and they've done a great job with their website, and it looks great. So July 31st, August 2nd, you put that tentatively in your calendar to go. I'll be there. Of course, Rob, as you said, you'll be there too. So I look forward to seeing everyone else.
Yep.
Okay, that's it. Todd or Rob at
right.
newmediashow.com, and promote the show with your fellow podcasters, people you work with. Let's grow this show and get the word out. Newmediashow.com. Everyone take care. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.
Aloha. Bye-bye.